Hi, I'm Alexa.
Hi, I'm Kennedy.
I'm Amber.
I'm Dima.
And we're doing our project on the art constructivism, which is based a lot in like communism and communist propaganda. So we're gonna bake a cake for you guys and we're gonna decorate it like the communist flag. And while we're doing that, we're gonna tell you a little bit about the art movement and what it consists of.
So, what is constructivism?
Constructivism is an early 20th century art movement founded in 1915 by Vladimir Tatlin and Alexander Rodchenko. Constructivism found its roots in suprematism, which was a radical abstract art that came before that was founded by Kazimir Malevich. Many of the artists that we talk about worked with Kazimir Malevich but separated themselves due to their communist ideas that he did not agree with. Malevich reduced art to basic shapes like squares, circles, and crosses as a means of making art that was about the supremacy of feeling over pictorial art that was about meaning. According to constructivism ideas, suprematism was too difficult and it was unsuitable for the political constructivism agenda. The link between suprematism and constructivism was nevertheless pursued by the likes of Alexander Rodchenko and L. Lizatisky, both of whom worked in the suprematist idiom. The differences between suprematism and constructivism can be attributed chiefly to the idea of agitprop, which is agitational propaganda. Constructivism chose to focus on the idea that domestic art should explicitly support the interests of the nascent Soviet Union. This movement grew after the outbreak of the Russian Revolution and thrived until Stalin took power in 1924. The Russian Revolution was a culmination of many factors that resulted in the proletariat, or working class, overturning Russia's government. Constructivism was a popular art form all the way up until the 1920s and was nearly ended by the early 1930s. The movement had fallen victim to Stalin's hostility and his rejection of intellectualism and avant-garde art. And this gave way to Stalin's new preference of socialist realism, which is quite different than constructivism art. The constructivists were pioneers who rejected traditional artistic stereotypes. Their overall approach was grounded in theory and science, challenging the notion of the artist as an intuitive and inspired individual. A key distinction made by constructivists was between composition and construction. Composition, driven by the artist's intuition, was contrasted with construction, which was based on scientific laws. This separation reflected their commitment to merging art with a more systematic and industrialized approach. Constructivist art was characterized by the use of simple geometric forms and straight lines. This visual language was not only expressed artistic creativity, but also suggested the basic structural units of modern engineering and architecture. It's also important to remember that constructivism involved the rejection of old conceptions of art and the artist. In alignment with communist ideals, constructivists shifted their focus from spiritual concerns to the material world. This ideological shift mirrored the socio-political context of the time, coinciding with the early years of the Russian Revolution. All in all, constructivism remains a groundbreaking movement that revolutionized the art world by marrying the realms of art and science. The rejection of traditional norms, the emphasis of scientific principles, and the visual language of simplicity and structure all contribute to the enduring legacy of constructivism.
Now let's talk about some artists that were a huge part of the constructivist art movement.
L. Lizatisky is a constructivist artist who was born in Pochonok, Russia on November 23, 1890, and died in Moscow, Russia on November 30, 1931. Lizatisky was raised in a Jewish neighborhood in the city of Pochonok, however, spending much time in Vitebsk, Russia. Shortly after, he completed a 10-year stay during his later adolescence with his grandparents in Solminsk, Russia. This being where he completed his secondary schooling as a child. Lizatisky was a profound artist even at a young age. At 13 years old, Lizatisky was recognized by another local Jewish artist by the name of Yehuda Penn, who essentially took Lizatisky under his wing. Penn was the founder of an art institute named School of Drawing and Painting, located in Vitebsk, Russia. Here, Penn taught many celebrated and well-known artists of the time. Shortly after being recognized by Penn, at the age of 15, Lissitzky had already begun his teaching career. Other young Jewish artists looked up to Lissitzky for motivation. In 1909, he was rejected from the St. Petersburg Art Academy for the fact that he was Jewish and there were anti-Semitic laws in place at that time. Due to this, Lissitzky packs up and heads to Germany and enrolls in the University of Technology studying architectural engineering. In his later years of study, Lissitzky began to dig deeper into the Jewish culture and later even produced national Jewish art. While studying, Lissitzky meets another artist by the name of Kazimir Melvik. Melvik was also an instructor who had attained an unfamiliar art style to Lissitzky, the art style of suprematism. This art style consists of many flat and geometric shapes like triangles and squares. The encounterment with Melvik ultimately served as a turning point in Lissitzky's own career. Later on, with the two's friendship and artwork blooming, you could call Lissitzky's work more supremacist now. The two co-founded the supremacist group Unovis. However, most may argue Lissitzky's art to be less supremacist due to his use of political symbolism. Lissitzky spends most of the rest of his career tying the aspects of supremacism and propaganda and political side of his home country, Russia. This ultimately results in Lissitzky creating propaganda art also known as constructivism. One of his most profound beliefs was that graphic arts like posters and books was the best way to speak to the public. This resulted in most of his art pieces being more like a governmental message like propaganda. All in all, L. Lissitzky had a powerful influence on the progression of art. Using basic shapes and colors to portray messages and even stories is what helped artists of the time and well after.
Next, Alexander Rodchenko. He was a pivotal figure in the Russian avant-garde movement, and he embodied the spirit of innovation and radical change. He was a pioneering artist, a photographer, and a graphic designer whose impact on the world of art is immeasurable. His personal life was intimately woven into the fabric of the avant-garde art movement in the early 20th century Russia. Born in 1891, he embraced a life characterized by creativity, innovation, and a relentless pursuit of artistic expression. His marriage to a fellow artist, Varvara Stepanova, not only deepened his personal life, but also cemented a powerful artistic partnership. Their shared commitment to the Russian avant-garde and their collaborative work exemplified a union of minds and creativity. As a key proponent of Russian constructivism, Rodchenko's artistic output extended across various mediums, including painting, photography, graphic design, and sculpture. His connection to Russian constructivism was deeply rooted in his unwavering belief in the power of art to shape a new world. He rejected traditional artistic conventions. He embraced the constructivist principles of functionalism, abstraction, and a fervent commitment to the industrial age. His art and design work became a powerful expression of the constructivist ethos, reflecting the movement's overarching goal of fusing art with the demands of modern life. Through his collaborations with fellow constructivist artists and theorists, such as Vladimir Mayakovsky and his wife, Varvara Stepanova, Rodchenko pushed the boundaries of traditional art, embracing an aesthetic that was at once revolutionary and also purposeful. Furthermore, Rodchenko's involvement in the realm of education and pedagogy exemplified his allegiance to the constructivist movement. He became a teacher at the Higher Art and Technical Studios. He championed the integration of art, technology, and industry, and fostered a new generation of artists and designers who sought to transcend the confines of traditional artistic practice. Alexander Rodchenko's life and his deep connection to Russian constructivism underscores the movement's profound impact on the trajectory of modern art and design. His visionary approach to art, his dedication to the principles of constructivism, and his unwavering belief in the transformative potential of art have left an indelible mark on the artistic landscape.
Vladimir Tatlin, a pioneering Russian artist born in 1885, was renowned for his avant-garde vision and is best remembered for his profound association with constructivism and his ambitious design of the unbuilt Tatlin Tower. This tower symbolized innovation and artistic daring in the early 20th century. Tatlin's early years weren't exactly painted with hues of luxury. He hailed from a modest background, which means his family didn't have buckets of gold lying around. But here's where it gets interesting. Young Tatlin had this spark in him. While other kids were doodling in their notebooks, he was probably crafting mini masterpieces out of sticks and mud. Growing up in the countryside, Tatlin must have spent countless afternoons exploring fields, climbing trees, and discovering the wonders of nature. Who knew those childhood adventures would later fuel his imagination to create towering wonders? He wasn't into just painting landscapes. He dreamt of making something enormous, like a tower touching the clouds. One day, Tatlin decided his art needed a little more creativity. And that is when he decided to build the Tatlin Tower. At the core of constructivism was the idea of art serving a functional purpose, seamlessly integrated into the fabric of society. Vladimir Tatlin's most iconic creation, the Tatlin Tower, wasn't merely an aesthetic marvel. It was a bold statement, a synthesis of art and utility. Although the tower remained unbuilt, its design epitomized the constructivist ethos, a fusion of artistic expression and now practical functionality. The funny thing is, Vladimir Tatlin's tower never actually got built. Still, his big dream shows us that thinking beyond the norm is inspiring. But Tatlin's foray into constructivism wasn't limited to grand designs. His use of industrial materials like metal, glass, and wood showcased the commitment to the movement's principles. He wasn't content with traditional canvases. He sought to elevate art by incorporating it into the very structures of modern life. As we reflect on Tatlin's role in constructivism, we see an artist who wasn't content with the status quo. He was a provocateur, challenging the boundaries of art and societal norms.
All in all, constructivism was the most influential art movement in 20th century Russia. In this movement, artists got to reimagine themselves as technicians and architects. They wanted to use their art as a way to give solutions to modern problems. Now, we're cutting into the cake and we're ready to try it. Now we also have a video from the Museum of Modern Art describing constructivism.
Covers the period from about 1912 to 1934. And more or less, it's the period that we consider to be kind of the high point of the Russian avant-garde in terms of artistic practice. But what's really interesting about this moment is the way that art and societal change, governmental change, history are all so inextricably intertwined. So when people ask about the revolution, the historical event they're really talking about happens in 1917. And so what we're talking about is a moment in which the long-ruling dynastic family of Russia, they've been in power for 300 years at this point, is seen by the people as occupying this kind of elevated position, this position of luxury and control, where the people of Russia are really struggling, a lot of them. And so there is this kind of groundswell that comes from the population, a desire for a new government, a government that's going to be by them and for them. Artists are really starting to think about how they can make positive contributions to the goals of the revolution. How can they really contribute to society? They decide maybe it's no longer really about being in the studio and making easel painting. And in fact, easel painting would come to be kind of phased out by some of these artists in the not too distant future. But in the meantime, they're thinking about what's the way in which we're going to communicate with people. And there is a kind of decision among artists like Rodchenko, whose work we see here, that it's going to be a language of abstraction. But it has to be something that's clear, something that's understandable. So in drawings like these, what Rodchenko does is he goes to these kind of objective tools. He uses a ruler, he uses a compass. He's able to almost scientifically map out his drawing. It's not about kind of his imagination in the studio, a kind of daydreaming, an invention. It's about a kind of concrete, real world kind of constructed way of thinking. And that, in a way, is where this term constructivism comes from. It's the idea of making a type of work that has a kind of concrete place in the world, using this kind of abstract language.
In constructivist art, they used bold primary colors like yellow and red to convey strong, powerful messages. There are many other artists who were part of the constructivist movement in Russia, such as Naum Gabo, Alexandra Exter, Marlo Moss, Marcel Janko, Oleg Prokofiev, and many, many more. While researching this project, we learned a lot about the constructivist art movement and the Russian Revolution. It was really interesting to see all the things that we've learned about over the seas and the Russian Revolution.
Thank you guys for watching our project on constructivism. We hope you enjoyed, and we will see you guys in class.